Welcome to Pulp Diction, the podcast where I yap about movies for what used to be an academic obligation and is now just for fun. Alright, we're good there? Good here, good on audio. Okay, sick. Welcome back to Pulp Diction. I'm your host, Dylan Gibson. Who am I here with?
I am John Gibson. Father to
Dylan Gibson. Previously joined on, what was the last one? We did all the Star Wars movies.
We did the Star Wars trilogy, right?
We did all three trilogies.
Oh, did we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember. I kind of want to listen to the sequel trilogy one again because I remember how angry I was.
Yeah.
During that.
Wow. Yeah, there are reasons to be angry about that one.
But we won't get into that.
Right.
Exactly. We did Almost Famous.
Yep.
And I feel like Star Wars might have been the last one.
Okay.
We did together. But I think it's high time we did another one.
Mm-hmm. Appropriate, too, I think, to talk about father, like for a father and son to have a conversation about There Will Be Blood, too, I think.
Which There Will Be Blood is the movie we're discussing today. Directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. I think this is the second episode in a row I've done on Paul Thomas Anderson.
Okay.
Because the last one was One Battle with Declan.
Okay.
His latest release from 2025, a lot of Oscar buzz around it. I think it just won a Golden Globe or two.
Okay.
But There Will Be Blood also had a lot of award buzz in 2007 when it came out.
Yep. Well, and we looked up too, right, that Daniel Day-Lewis won Best Actor Oscar for this,
which I would say is deserved.
Oh,
also, although I haven't seen most, if not all, of the other movies in the category.
Yeah,
I do know this movie was not only released the same year as No Country for Old Men, but filmed in the same area at the same time.
All right,
but which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and didn't No Country beat them out for Best Picture, I think. Right?
It might have. I know Javier Bardem, I think, got supporting actor.
Okay.
But what's really funny is during the big oil derrick fire scene, all the smoke billowing out, there was so much of it that it interfered with the No Country for Old Men filming.
Oh my gosh.
They had to stop for the day because it was getting in the way of their scene.
That's crazy.
And they couldn't do it.
Wow.
But yeah, There Will Be Blood, again, released 2007. It's hard to explain what this movie's about without it sounding like the most boring thing in the world.
Yeah. Well, and it was loosely based on a book.
Oil, right? By something, Upton Sinclair.
Upton Sinclair, right.
Which I'd be very curious to read.
Yeah,
I did read an article about There Will Be Blood as an adaptation and how Daniel Plainview differs from the main character in Oil.
Okay.
Which was very interesting. But
yeah, and I said to you before we were recording to you that I had to read, and when I was in high school, I had to read Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, which was sort of his criticism of the industrial movement revolution with factories and stuff. So Oil was, I guess, his treatment of the oil industry and everything.
Yeah,
so
oil industry, capitalism, industrialism, all the things, and a lot of those themes are kept between the book and the movie for sure.
And probably you could say a predominant theme of PTA too is that whole like religion versus something, right? You see it. Magnolia was there. I saw you guys talked about it. I think in One Battle After Another.
It's touched on for sure. The Master.
Yeah, definitely things that. And it was probably more front and center here, I think, than
for sure.
Some of the other ones.
Yeah, the whole movie is sort of this tug of war for control, I'd say, between Paul Dano and Daniel Day-Lewis's characters. Eli Sunday and Daniel Plainview, respectively, who both actors do so incredible in their roles. There's been a lot of talk of Tarantino lately. I don't know if you know this. But he said, like, Paul Dano ruins the movie. He's so bad, I hate him. That's crazy. Which is a crazy thing to say because he's keeping up with Daniel Day-Lewis, one of the greatest actors ever. Yeah. In one of his greatest performances ever.
Well, and I mean, Paul Dano, he does a great job. I mean, I didn't watch any interviews with him. I'd be curious to know who he watched to get sort of his character a little bit, because
some charismatic preachers,
right? Yeah. Because I could imagine that there are a few that you see on TV that he could easily have watched to get his inspiration for that.
Definitely.
But that power play back and forth, it's almost like watching the two kids at school fighting each other. One time one wins, one time the other one wins, and it's just this
back and forth. He slaps him, he slaps him, and it's a whole thing.
And uncomfortable too. There was that one scene when they're like, Eli tells Daniel he wants him to. He's like, and you can have a blessing as we open up this thing. And you can invite me up to pray and do all this stuff. Not only does he not invite him up, he does it himself, and he invites his little sister up, right?
Yes, he uses the exact same description that Eli wanted him to use for himself on his sister. I'm a son of the land. This is Mary Sunday. She's a daughter of the land.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Which I love the voice he does the whole movie.
Yeah, and it was super uncomfortable. Yet you almost sound like you're summoning Bane too at the same time.
Yeah, all my impressions inevitably just revert
sound
to
like
Bane.
Tom Hardy, yeah. That was super uncomfortable. Yeah, there are a lot of scenes where just there's no resolution in the moment, and I think Anderson just lets you sit in the awkwardness of the moment. You know,
he's very good at that.
Yeah,
he just he lets a shot or two linger just a little too long. Yeah, to make it not comfortable.
Yeah,
and just force you to sit with it, like you said. And he does want you to sit with this movie. I mean, it's because the thing about Plainview and Eli, they represent these two sort of the extremes of these two institutions in America, business and religion, right?
Yep.
And just sort of how they're used to control people, right? And obviously that's not how not all businessmen are Daniel Plainview.
Sure.
Not all preachers are Eli Sunday.
Right.
And I remember seeing some interview or another with Anderson where he says he wants to believe in the good of capitalism. He wants to believe in the positive of American Christianity.
Right.
But so often he's let down by both. And I can't say he's at fault for that. And I'm very interested to hear your perspective as a pastor yourself.
That's a really interesting question. And something that I probably wrestle with maybe even more than the average person, because you see that all the time. There's always that the abuse of something. I mean, we see that in our country even now. Like
it's a period piece, but it's very topical. Weirdly enough.
Yeah, but you know, I think we could probably point to many periods of history where there was an abuse of power in either an institution or something of a people, and all of a sudden the people become thrown out because of that. I mean, we did it in our country with Japanese internment camps in World War II, right? So let's just dismiss them all. I mean, we've seen it after 9/11 with people from the Middle East being treated poorly.
Oh yeah. I mean, oil itself as an industry, you look at 2007, around the time this movie came out, America we were in Iraq, right? Or we were freshly out of Iraq. I'm not 100% up to date on my history, but a lot of people would argue that just as Daniel is sort of using oil, he wants that control over the land and the oil. We were going into this new land for oil and power, right?
Yeah. Well, and so much of it's a control thing again. I mean, anytime that you have religion being more about control than about like change and transformation, then I think it becomes abusive. Because religion it shouldn't be, regardless of what other people have said about it through the centuries, it shouldn't be something that people are using to beat other people with. There are strong convictions and beliefs in that. I'm not saying don't have those, but when it becomes an abuse of power in those things, then, and that's what it is. Like Eli, everyone just loves him. I mean, even the language that he told Daniel to use, right? This son of the land kind of thing. I mean, again, without mentioning any names, we see this in certain political figures who are very adamant about the way that they are addressed, and you need to call me, it's like, call me sir. It just, and when people are like that, that always raises red flags for me, whether you're an oil man or a preacher or whatever. It's,
almost brings to mind for me the Monsignor Wicks from the recent Wake Up Dead Man. Another movie heavily featuring religion as a theme. One of my favorites from this last year, but that's another.
And both of them, I was reading up on Paul Thomas Anderson. Looks like he was raised Roman Catholic and went to Catholic school and stuff like that too. But he's resisted. He and Maya Rudolph, they've got 4 kids together. They're not officially married.
Which I didn't realize he and Maya Rudolph were together until recently. That's crazy.
I think once upon a time I found that nugget somewhere, and then I just displaced it. But really, really an interesting thing. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Maya Rudolph, I remember. Just every time I watch this movie now, it hasn't been ruined for me, but there's this amazing SNL skit where Bill Hader plays Daniel Plainview.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And it's like he's reviewing a milkshake or something, and he does a wonderful impression.
You drink it down.
I drink your milkshake. He takes out a giant straw.
That's hilarious.
He like loses sight of his son for a second. He does the whole, I've abandoned my child! Which another fantastic scene. Daniel Day-Lewis does such a good job, but the internet's almost ruined it for me.
Yeah,
because it's
was that the baptism
thing?
Right,
yes.
Right. Yeah, where he forces,
I've abandoned my boy.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and it's funny because there's a scene earlier in the movie where is it the Standard Oil guys that he's talking to?
I believe so.
And by this point, because his son's sick, he's abandoned him on a train, and the Standard guys don't necessarily know this, I don't think. But the guy's like, "Oh, you can spend some more time with your." Don't
tell me how to raise my family.
He loses his mind over that. Like,
while you're sleeping, I'll come into your house and cut your throat.
Yeah, I mean,
he just says some ridiculous things.
Right, and the guy's like, "Did I offend you?
I'm sorry.
What's going on?" So it's interesting that he would like be so sensitive in that scenario, and then when Eli forces him to say this, like, it's almost with the fervor that he says it with, it's almost like it was relief for him.
Yes,
like almost it's like you hear about criminals who want to be caught because they
can't hold it in anymore.
Right.
Yeah, and like the thing is, everything he's saying in that scene is just part of the performance. He doesn't actually believe in any of this as what he views as nonsense. But when he is told to say, I've abandoned my child, he hesitates. And then there's that release. He says it twice. I've abandoned my boy. Because that's the one part that actually cuts for him. And it's so interesting to me because it'd be very easy to write off Plainview as just sort of a totem, a personification of capitalism and everything wrong with it. But there's this thing about family that keeps cutting him deep. It's why he lets Henry, or quote unquote Henry, get close to him. It's why the thing with HW hurts him so deeply, and he sort of justifies it to himself by the end.
Yeah,
you're not even my son. You're just a bastard from a basket.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
no, I don't know.
Well,
It's
and
really
that's definitely an Anderson theme. I one of my favorite of his movies is Magnolia, and the father son like treatment in that movie, especially the Jason Robards and Tom Cruise one is like heartbreaking. But like it's just it's interesting because the beginning of this movie he's solo, like he's working on his own in this thing, like he's just like a hermit, like working alone.
Yeah.
And then in an act of almost compassion,
yes,
he takes this kid who's been
his dad
orphaned,
got killed in the
his dad gets killed in the derrick, the oil derrick thing. And so it's almost like, okay, wow, you showed some humanity here by really being compassionate.
Yeah.
And then, I think...
And he has like two of those moments, I think, that show like an almost uncharacteristic compassion from Plainview. It's that when he adopts a child, and when he stops... what's his name? Sunday, the father from beating Mary.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think on a surface level, yes, those are both compassionate, but also they serve his own ends, right? Like he uses HW to sort of paint himself as a family man,
right? Yes.
Make him more appealing to potential landowners,
right?
And Mary, the thing with Mary is just sort of another power play,
right? A dig at Eli.
I control you.
Yeah,
I have more power than you, and it's just, I don't know, it's sort of serving his own means.
Right.
But at the same time, why would he feel so emotional over HW in the baptism scene?
Yeah.
It's so
well, and it is almost that inner turmoil of going like, yes, I showed compassion. It was self-serving because I can play myself off as a family man, and the moment that it stood in the way of his forward progress was the moment that it was expendable. But I think there's always that thing in him where he's going. I mean, think about the many other great movies where someone's trying. Well, look, we just saw the Stranger Things like finale, right? And here you are trying to convince the dude who becomes Vecna, like, hey, there's still some good in you somewhere. Yeah. I mean, I
did appreciate that they didn't go the redemption route for him.
Yeah. But well, and they certainly, Anderson certainly doesn't go there with Plainview here either. But there's that bit in him that, like, and it's... Again, like this overtaking, I mean, go as far back as Jekyll and Hyde and whatever, the overtaking of the monster within the man, right? That at some point, and I think you can argue at the conclusion of this film, that the monster has won over the man, and which,
And it is interesting to see how he ends up at the end of the movie, but at the same time, like the monster's overtaken him, but at the same time, I feel like he hasn't really changed at all as a person. It's more he's just become who he truly is in a way, which sounds cynical,
right?
But I think Daniel Plainview's a cynical guy at heart, and I mean, otherwise he wouldn't have. Like I said, he goes on that rant to HW. He tells him he's adopted and he's not really his son. That's not just him trying to hurt him. That's him justifying to himself, you're not my real family. I don't have to, you're not my son. I have no obligation to you.
Yeah.
And then he does the whole thing. I don't know. He doesn't change. And it's a sort of protagonist that I feel like we've seen a lot of in our post-millennial society. We just saw it in Marty Supreme.
Yeah.
We saw it in Uncut Gems, Wolf of Wall Street. These people who are just awful human beings and who just abuse and exploit the system and other people. And their greed is ultimately their own downfall, which Daniel doesn't really have a literal downfall. He has everything he wanted, but he's all alone and isolated. He has nothing to do except shoot his own crap in a hallway of his house.
Yeah. Well, and there's something to be said too when even in that whole idea of control, and like he wants to be the one to do the hurting too, right? And so like I want to reject Eli. I want to have the upper hand here, even with his conversation with the grown-up HW later on. Yeah, he calls him the bastard in the basket and stuff like that. But HW says, "I thank God I have none of you in me."
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh man, that's one of those like cut deep lines."
Yeah, twist the knife.
Oh yeah, because you think about adoption, and so often I've heard people talk about adoption like the difference is like you chose somebody instead of like this was who was given to you. But him saying like returning that to him and saying like I won't be like you because we're not like blood relatives.
Yes.
Basically that was his screw you to his old man saying like if there was any ounce of you in me, then I would be afraid that I'd become just like you. So,
and the decision to say I thank God specifically, like again tying it back to the religion viewpoint.
Yeah.
Because I think HW has at least some degree of respect for religion, unlike Daniel, who views it all as a farce. He makes Eli basically denounce his own religion by the end.
Right, yeah. Well, and again, it would be interesting to watch back to back the baptism scene and then that end scene, right? Because it's the same progression for both of them, right? Like you said, that Plainview, he was very hesitant at first to say anything, but then he's like screaming it. Same thing with Eli at the end, where he's saying, "I want you to announce, this is false."
Again, it's that tug of war. Like it starts with Daniel coming in, buying the land, and then Eli wants to bless it, and he doesn't let him bless it. And Daniel slaps Eli. Eli slaps Daniel and escalates it by making him scream and confess. Yeah. And then it comes to a head at the end in the bowling alley when Daniel makes him confess, and then he tells Eli, "You just did that for nothing." Also, he murders him.
Right.
And
spoiler
alert. There is in fact blood at the end.
Yes. And I would say I wrote down, I was like, man, I'm Finished probably ranks up there in my like top 10.
It's one of the greatest closing lines.
Last lines.
I'm finished.
I mean,
what do you think about that?
It's no
we'll always have Paris.
Yeah, we'll always have, or this is the beginning of a beautiful, friendship kind of thing. No, I think there's. It's funny because I had my own thoughts, and then I was looking for stuff, and obviously, like Jesus on the cross, his last words
it is finished.
It is finished, right?
Good connection.
So there's a completeness there. I think him saying that says a couple of things. One person that I'd read a quote from said that when he said that, he's realizing that this is where the bloodline stops. Like HW has basically disowned him too. I have none of you in me, right? So his bloodline stopped. But I think he's also saying, like, I'm done for, I'm finished, like antiquated language that we may not use every day, but like, he's going to be locked up and he's going to be like all that freedom and control that he thought he had is gone. So he's finished.
I don't think he necessarily is going to get locked up, though. Eli has nothing and no one, and the butler or whatever comes in, and he doesn't even flinch. He just sort of, it's an everyday thing almost.
Yeah.
Like I think it's what Anderson's saying is that like these people who have basically gotten to the top of the system, they can do whatever they want. They can just kill a guy and nothing's gonna be done about it.
Yeah.
Because Daniel's he is finished. He's reached the top. Mm-hmm. There's nowhere to go from there. And he can do whatever he wants, and it won't even matter. It's sort of like the ending of American Psycho.
I was just going to say.
Where it doesn't matter what he does. He can just get away with it.
Yep.
Which makes him... It doesn't make him more significant. It makes him less significant, because everything he does is just...
Yeah.
It's spoilers for American Psycho, I guess. But
yeah. Well, Clockwork Orange too. I would say you could probably throw that in there too, as far as the ending that leaves it somewhat ambiguous in that regard. But the other piece of it too is that he's done. Like I mean, just like there was a completeness when Jesus said, "Hey, like all my work is done. I've done everything I'm supposed to do." Like he could have been meaning it that way too, and like okay. I'm finished. Like he's been running. He's been doing this work, and now he can finally say, okay, I'm done.
And it's sort of almost like in that Jesus comparison, it's almost sort of a grim, not parody of religion, but a twisted version of it. Daniel's religion is oil and profit. Yep. It's not. No God or anything.
Yeah.
And you sort of see that all throughout. You see it in the opening, 14 minutes until there's dialogue?
Yeah, it's like 12
which is crazy. Great sequence.
Yeah.
But when you see baby HW and his biological father, he sort of smears some oil on him, almost like anointing him.
Right, it's like,
oil. Like
Ash
this
Wednesday,
is going,
right.
Yeah, this is going to be your God. This is what's going to dictate your life.
Yeah.
Which I think he sort of finally breaks free of at the end.
Yeah.
When he marries Mary. And later on in the oil derrick scene, which I want to talk about more in depth later, but I've viewed that as sort of when Daniel and HW get covered in the oil, it's sort of a baptism for both of them.
Yeah.
Again,
right.
Their God is oil and profit.
Yep.
And it's just black and corrupting, right? And he sort of, when he's beating up Eli, he's covering him with mud, sort of his own, like, again, twisted baptism.
Right.
Putting him through the crap.
Yep.
And again, like you said, by the end, he makes a blood sacrifice almost, but not his own, like Jesus, but someone else's.
Well, and to what?
And for no greater purpose. He just does it because he can.
Yeah. But it's cyclical too, because the movie starts out. Yeah, you said like 12, 15 minutes of it's just him. There's no dialogue at all.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, before the butler comes in, it's just him. I mean, the only living person in the scene, I should say, is him.
Yeah.
And so it's like I began my life, like we began this movie looking at solitary Plainview, and he didn't have much. He was, struggling to make things happen. At the end, and I think you can argue that the same frame of mind, did it, having gained all those riches, sitting there in his mansion on his bowling alley, he's still solitary, alone, frustrated, and he's got, even though by some standards he would have, been successful, he's in the same place that he was at the beginning of the movie. So what do you do with that,
And there's sort of, I read somewhere about a review, there's a sort of symbolism in the bowling alley itself. I mean, it's this long room and that doesn't actually go anywhere, which you see when Eli goes down. He tries to open the doors, and there's no escape from it. And it's these two lanes. The balls can only go that one direction, and the two alleys sort of imply an even fair competition between two people, right? But he just throws balls at Eli. He takes the pins and starts chucking them at him, literally dismantling that fair competition and beating him to death with it.
Right. Yeah.
Just sort of, again, beating the system and abusing it.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I hadn't really thought about that fact that there were only two lanes there, and that whole pitting one against the other, and finally like coming to, who wins. And again, I think that's probably Anderson's lesson too. Is like, you can win, but you still lose, kind of thing. That's the thing. There are these two paths as well. They're parallel, almost like the religion and business angle of the movie, and they both end up going to the same place. They both end up leading to just death and despair. Death and despair, yeah. And of course, like, they're finally. I mean, the whole movie. So it opens with the title card, "There will be blood." It's sort of a promise. There will be blood. So the whole movie you're waiting for there to be blood. Right. And which you finally get in the last minutes of the movie. And that promise being fulfilled, I think, suggests a sort of inevitability, not just from a storytelling perspective of foreshadowing and building suspense, when's there going to be blood, but beyond that, a promise about anyone who goes on a quest like Daniel's, where they place oil or profit or anything like that as their god, that these false gods lead to death and pain and blood in the end. Yeah. Well, and what you said about sacrifice too, because there was one. It wasn't. Was it HW's dad who? I feel like there were two deaths. There were two deaths. Derrick. Yeah, there was one. HW's was the first one. Yes, and then the second one was where that other thing like fell. Yeah, right. Wax it. Yeah, yeah, and it like hit the dude in the head, and he has to ask like, did I know him when he says who died? Yeah. And he sort of chews out the workers. And it has to wake up in the middle of the night, whole thing. There's something about falling, too, in this film. Because if you go back to the beginning... It starts with him falling, breaking his leg, right? Yeah, so he falls down. He manages to pick himself up and drag himself. Even all the way to the next shot you see him, he's on the floor in the dispensary place where he's getting paid for the gold, the silver stuff that he's got. But and then so many things falling, the equipment falling in the well. Motif, and did the tower eventually, or the derrick fall? Yeah, when in the fire scene, they do take it down and it collapses. So there's this again that. Like, you can build things. I mean, think about the biblical story of the Tower of Babel, right? Like you're trying to use industry and technology to reach God, to get high. Yeah, and those things keep falling, down again. Yeah, that's a good connection. I like that. And the oil scene, the explosion, the fire, whatever. I had to write an essay on a scene from this movie in my junior year of high school, and that's the scene I picked. Okay. And I saw a lot of like biblical imagery in that. Yeah. Like I mentioned with the baptism of Daniel and HW, and also, I mean, it just becomes this pillar of fire, right? Which made me think of Exodus, right? Yep. The Israelites have to follow a pillar of fire through the desert, just like this pillar of fire in the desert, to find their promised land, right? And I think this sort of pillar of fire similarly is leading Daniel to his own
sort of promised land, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But again, his god is capitalism, essentially. And so his promised land is, I guess, riches and a beautiful home and everything you could ever want, but it ultimately leads to isolation and death.
Yeah. Huh. I was wondering, so you're thinking about the son losing his hearing, and I was kind of like thinking to myself, what's the significance of hearing?
Yeah.
Here's this. There are multiple times before the son loses his hearing, and even maybe some afterwards, where Plainview's like giving him instructions, like he's training him up. I mean, it's his disciple, you could even say, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's training him up, and his son's like taking it all in. He's listening to him. You may even say that the one person that Plainview was honest with and told the truth to was his son.
I would agree.
And then all of a sudden, the one person in the world that he is able to say truth to is his son, and his son loses his hearing.
Yeah.
And that whole event, he doesn't immediately get rid of his son, but he eventually does. But
after he tries to kill,
but there again, it's like, in some ways, it goes back to what we were saying before about if something loses its use, it's expendable.
Yes.
And so his son, yes, he was potentially going to take over the business, do whatever, but now he was also his confessor. Like, he was able to confess to him and tell him truth.
Yeah.
And now that he can't hear, it's almost like he's lost that purpose too. And so he's just expendable, And that's, I mean, again, you think about it, I could tell you stories about pastors and missionaries who, they gave their best to everybody else but their families, right? Yeah. And so, again, thinking about the things that you sacrifice on the altar of whatever you think is the best, building, your oil business, building your church, building whatever. Right. Like, whatever you put on that altar is going to be what's the God that you're sacrificing to.
Right.
It's crazy. Yeah.
And for a time, Daniel does get a new confessor in his brother. And I think some of the scenes where they're camping together are maybe his most honest in the movie. He sort of spells out his own thesis statement. I hate most people. Sometimes I look at them, I can't see anything worth liking or something like that.
Yeah.
I just want to win and make everyone else lose. Again, we saw it in Adam Sandler's character in Uncut Gems.
Yeah.
But he finds out that Henry's not even his real family.
Right.
Which he doesn't have that blood tie. Which he doesn't to HW either, but in HW's case, he was making up he was formulating that false blood tie, whereas for his own gain, whereas Henry was formulating it for his own gain, and he can't have himself being the exploited rather than the exploiter, which is why he kills him, right?
Yes, yeah. No, it's funny. Yeah, I was thinking that exact thing as you were laying that out. It was just, it's so ironic that the very thing, but here again, this is what power does. Like, ultimately, power corrupts ultimately, and the fact that, like, you get to this place where it doesn't matter if you're guilty of this, and we were talking about cognitive dissonance earlier, right? Like, there's such a contradiction between who you say or think you are and what you do, and for him, don't best me by. It's always him against everybody. It's him against Eli. It becomes him against HW, him against the fake Henry too, right? And if you ever one up me, I'm gonna hunt you down and cut your throat, kind of thing.
I'm gonna bury you, Eli.
So that just the inconsistency and hypocrisy of that that yes, he's using and saying, oh yeah, this is my son HW, blah 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 blah. Even when he's asked about his mother, right?
He says she died in childbirth.
Right. But the reason this guy's playing Henry is because he found his diet, like everything he knows about
he was friends with the real Henry, allegedly.
Yeah.
And he definitely found his diary.
Yeah.
Which, does HW read that, I think? Or
does he?
I can't remember. Is that why he tries to kill him?
I think,
or burn him?
I thought Daniel read the diary.
He read the diary after he killed Henry, but he realizes that he's fake because he makes like a joke, like an inside joke from their hometown. It was
about the neighbor's
the Peachtree
house.
Dance.
Okay, yeah.
And he repeats it, and he's just, yeah. He clearly doesn't get it, and Day-Lewis does such a great job. Like, you see his realization, this isn't who I thought he was.
Yeah.
And yeah.
A couple of the other things we talked about, like there being no dialogue in the beginning, but there's music, right, in the beginning.
Johnny Greenwood, right?
Right. I didn't realize until I started doing a deep dive that he's the guitarist from Radiohead.
I didn't either. That's crazy.
So I was like, okay, all right, now I'm beginning to get it. And once I knew that, even going back, and because once he did the music, I think this was the first movie he did with Paul Thomas Anderson.
And they've done like every movie since.
They've done Licorice Pizza, One Battle, Master, Phantom Thread, and Inherent Vice. But I just rewatched One Battle After Another, and I was listening to the music, and there were multiple times I'm like, oh my gosh, this is totally Radiohead. It sounded like you could just hear it, and you're like, oh man, I can hear these things.
Yeah. Like
certain musical motifs that you hear in the music of Radiohead and stuff. But it was really interesting to see how he composed stuff that, when things were peaceful, there was like this really nice sort of classical music, and then but there was such dissonant stuff as well.
You have the oil derrick, the explosion scene, which I think is I don't know if it's my favorite part of the movie, but I think it's one of the most perfect like cinematic sequences maybe ever.
Yeah.
And the music in that, it's so stressful. It has this sort of dissonant clicking.
Yep. Yeah.
And then it just keeps going and going nonstop until the final explosion, taking the fire down.
Yeah. The other scene that I really noticed that contrast in was when he abandons HW on the train.
Yes.
That it's like the music was sort of mellow, and then as soon as the train starts taking off, the music gets like super animated and like jumpy, and it was almost like you were inside Plainview and going like, and
they use that tracking shot with him and as you see the train leaving behind him, he can't even bring himself to look at it.
Right. And HW actually like runs out the door, and the conductor stops him, right, from getting off the train. Yeah, that was, it's crazy. But again, you think about the medium of film and the ability to be able to do that. It's funny because the tone of the movie sometimes makes me think it was like black and white, but I know it wasn't.
Yeah.
But we talked, I think, at some point that you've never seen The Artist, right?
No, not yet. No,
because that's black and white and silent.
Yeah.
I need to go back and watch that movie.
Yeah, I'm very curious too.
But it's just wild that what he shot in, like what he shot this film in.
I assume it's some sort of film. I didn't look into that.
Okay. Well, I was curious just because it had that.
It
had an antiquated, like this tone about it, some of the color schemes.
Yeah.
Even the costumes and stuff. There wasn't a lot of bright.
No, there's not. It's not a colorful movie for the most part.
I think the most color you probably saw was in the church.
I was gonna say the church, like the baptism, the people. You have that glowing cross behind him as he's going through the whole the baptism, I guess.
Which and that makes me think about
Wake Up Dead Man
too.
Yeah, where
there was no cross in the beginning.
Like there's a very clear symbolism, almost on the nose of like the void of a cross. On the wall. Yeah. It's a lot to chew on.
No, I was just thinking about the father-son thing too with Eli. There's almost a Cain and Abel.
Oh yeah.
Like Cain and Abel and Jacob and Esau sort of thing with Eli and his brother Paul. Was it Paul?
Paul Sunday, yeah.
And even criticizing his dad. How could
Abel?
You're stupid. You're stupid.
You're a stupid man, Abel. You let him in. Mm-hmm. Do you think God will forgive you for being stupid?
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
he calls his dad by his first name too.
Right. Yeah. So like again, that father-son thing again, where you just see these broken, and for Eli again, it was all about what do I want? What is my goal? What am I trying to get here? And if you stand in my way, then you're stupid, or I'm gonna shut you down. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned black and white. This movie does make me think of Treasure of the Sierra Madre, which I think is almost There Will Be Blood before There Will Be Blood.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if we watched that together, but it's another sort of the corruption of capitalism and profit, and Humphrey Bogart's character in that. That one's really
well,
great.
And Humphrey Bogart's character, and that's almost like Gollum-esque too, right?
He is.
It's almost like My Precious, right? Something that overtakes you, the power. In Lord of the Rings, it was the power of the ring.
Yeah.
In Sierra Madre, it's the gold. It's the
gold,
right?
Yeah.
Here, it's the oil. What is it that corrupts you? That it basically blinds you to your ability to be able to see. Past your own craving. I'd go so far as to say, your own lust.
And you have Daniel reaching almost that Gollum point at the end. I always loved the juxtaposition. You have Daniel all like, he has all these riches, all this good stuff, but he looks like crap by the end, and he's limping around. He's like hobbling. I don't know, whatever. And you have Eli, who looks all nice and put together and everything, but he's doing not great at all. And
well, he's still asking for the $5,000. Like, I want my $2. Right?
When do we get our money, Daniel?
Yeah. Well, and Daniel, like, he's drinking straight out of the like vodka or whatever, gin, or straight out of the bottle.
Yeah, he takes a ridiculous swig out of it.
Oh yeah,
and again, the symbolism in that ending scene, all throughout the bowling alley, the hallway where he's shooting things, the eating and drink. Eli's talking to him. He's just drinking and eating. He doesn't stop consuming things. Just like the whole movie, he hasn't been able to stop just consuming and eating more and more.
Which adds weight to that last line again, too.
I'm
finished, right? Like, I'm finished consuming.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take
the very hungry caterpillar over here.
Yes, to heart, that here he has been consuming, like eating everything in sight. And then finally he realized, like, okay, all right.
I'm finished.
I'm done. It's like getting up from the table and saying, like, I've had my fill, here. Yeah.
I think I mentioned a while ago, like, Daniel doesn't really develop or change by the end. He just becomes more himself.
Yeah.
And I think the facade is just falling away bit by bit until it's all gone.
Yeah.
And I think what Anderson's saying in that lack of development is, like, the system itself doesn't really change. Like, history repeats itself. We see this again and again and again throughout history. Just these people, these Daniel Plainviews who just exploit other people and are evil.
You said, it's like that. It seems cynical because it almost seems like, well, how do you
break that cycle?
How do you break that cycle? You brought in all those other characters before, Wolf of Wall Street and Uncut Gems, like Marty Supreme, where you see that, like, Marty Supreme had a much happier ending than a lot of these have had.
100%.
Because even though it's somewhat nebulous, there's like a glimmer of hope that, okay, is this finally the thing?
He's done with his
that's gonna
spoilers
change.
for Marty Supreme.
Yeah.
He's finally done with all this bull crap,
right?
And now he's gonna do what he probably should have done from the very beginning.
Yeah, yeah. And what was it? Again, it's the father. It's the change. Becoming a father was the thing that sort of was the impetus for him to change. And so, what is it that's finally gonna, for Jordan
Belfort
in Wolf of Wall Street, like, what is it that finally is gonna make, if anything?
Well, he's not gonna. He's just gonna keep. Jordan Belfort is just gonna keep just exploiting the schmucks that will keep buying into his bull BS, right? Which is what the end is saying. Like I love the final shot of Wolf of Wall Street. It's just these people watching him and buying into his like little motivational talk or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's almost a mirror put up to the audience. This is you. You're an idiot.
Yeah. Well, and you talked about Magnolia before. Like, that's what Tom Cruise's character does in that whole film.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, tame
his like whole alpha male.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's all about, but it again, that power control, like, I need to have an upper hand of something. Like, he lost his mom. I'm like, yeah, there's that definite theme of control in that. You still haven't watched Boogie Nights, but like Boogie Nights, The Master, Magnolia, this whole idea of this wrestling match where, somebody who starts out as a nobody, basically. All of a sudden,
even Daniel did.
Right.
Like, you see him at the very beginning digging around himself in the dirt and the rocks.
Right.
For silver.
So, you see this rise to power, rise to fame, and, it's not like it took, like, it wasn't like an overnight thing for him. But, the human condition in some ways is not meant to be able to deal with that kind of power. Again, going back to the Lord of the Rings thing, like, that was the difference between Galadriel too and Gollum, was that, like, she had the wisdom to know, like, I can't handle this.
Yeah.
Same thing with not Boromir, Aragorn. Like, he understood, like, hey, I can't have this. But the majority of people, in some ways, it's addiction, right?
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
Because I say that all the time about people who struggle with addiction. Like, they don't have the switch. They can't turn it off. I think in some ways it's that same thing. Like, people like Plainview are the ones with this addictive personality that they don't have the switch. They can't turn it off, and
they can't stop trying to beat everyone else.
Right. It becomes that they're God, like you said before, but it becomes that rush too. They're just going, I mean, did you watch Wall Street? That's
with Michael Douglas?
Yeah.
Not yet, no.
Yeah, because that's one of the other things. Wall Street, Glengarry Glen Ross too. Like, you're always closing. These things where, like, there's no ending in some ways, because it's always getting a hit from whatever it is that you're, like, pursuing. You know?
And, like, the system always has and always will sort of encourage that, because these people keep getting away with. Daniel Plainview got away with it. Jordan Belfort, I mean, he went to jail, but he pretty much got away with it. Yeah, you just see you see it again and again. The story never ends; it goes on and on, and on.
I mean, I think some of that's in battle, one battle after another too. Yeah, where it was like, for what was her name again?
The daughter?
No, the DiCaprio's wife.
Perfidia Beverly Hills.
Okay, yeah. Like for her, it was like there was that like sexual like getting a hit from what it is that I'm doing. So again,
she was addicted to rebellion and revolt.
That becomes your thing. Is that you know the thing, and it's scary in some ways to see that like probably deep down inside there's what's lurking. That's the beauty. I'd looked up, someone was saying something about, the thing about oil is you don't know what you have beneath the surface.
Yeah.
Right? You have to drill to see, and even to the point that at one point during the movie, Eli comes and said, was it Eli or Paul, says, "Oh, we've got oil spilling right at the surface," and he's like, "That doesn't necessarily mean." So
it's this earthquake.
But there's a really good, again, metaphor of like what you see on the outside isn't always what you see underneath. It's not, and in some ways he's calling it out. And he's calling himself out at the same time.
Yeah.
Because he's saying
his well-dressed exterior looks like a nice, put-together family man.
So, yeah, just those kinds of things are always super interesting. But, seeing oil as a metaphor of that. And maybe that's, the thing that drew him to it was that he's like, I'm like this oil in some ways,
Yeah, he sees himself in that.
Right.
It is. That is good. That is interesting. And again, when he is covered in the oil, you have the nighttime scenes. He's almost melting into the background. The background.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. He's just, like, it's just fully overtaken him at that point. He is. He can't go back.
Yeah.
It's just it's who he is, I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
I do like when William Bandy is talking to him after he kills his fake brother. He wakes him up. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm trying to remember.
The old guy.
Yeah, I remember the old guy.
Yeah. He tells him, "I want to buy your land. I want you to get baptized." Right? But he wakes Daniel up, and Daniel's sort of shielding his eyes from the light.
Yes. Okay.
Right? And I thought that was an interesting sort of symbolic gesture. Like he's trying to hide from the truth.
Oh yeah.
But from the light. But Bandy sees right through him. My boy's been sick. This was before your boy got sick.
Right.
What sin are you referring to? Well, that stuff. Like, I think there are a couple people who see right through Daniel, the movie, and that's Bandy and Eli. And yeah, I don't know. It's that again with the deafness, like when he goes deaf, HW can no longer hear Daniel's web of lies, right? He's not susceptible to his silver tongue.
Right. Well, and Bandy being able to see that was probably the wisdom of experience versus Eli being able to see it because criticism is autobiographical, and he was like, "Oh, I can see this because this is what I do all day long too." But that that hadn't even registered to me that he was kind of hiding from the light. Yeah, it's almost like Plainview is more comfortable in the dark because even like what you said before about those nighttime shots, like he blended in, and then when there's finally a shot where there's light present, he's like he can't handle it. Like he's averting his eyes from that. So
like he doesn't want to be seen, and he doesn't really want to see the truth either in a way. I do like the first, after HW finds the first oil in the area, there's this really like sweeping wide shot of just the whole desert landscape, the horizon's near the top, and you just see all the land before them, all the potential, I guess, the possibility.
Yep.
I don't know, it almost calls to mind like the westerns of old in these, like the Searchers, John Ford type.
Yep. Yeah. And at the same time, you think about things like Grapes of Wrath too, right? Like, that shot is going to be dependent upon the view, like the way you're viewing it too, right? To some, they might be like, oh, that's too risky, that's scary, I can't go there. But for someone like him, who knows that there's potential and possibility lurking beneath the surface, he's gonna grab it. So yeah.
Oh, one thing I thought was kind of interesting that I've never really noticed before, or if I did, I forgot, is that I'm not sure Eli ever actually reads any scripture. I think every time we see him preaching, it's all just the almost performative,
right?
Get out of here, ghost!
Yep.
Get out of here! It's just one hell of a show, Eli.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it's all an act for both of them. It was surprising to me in some ways that Bandy would like, and again, it speaks to
he sees through Daniel and not.
Well, he does, but it's just weird that he would force him to, because it almost implies that he thinks there's some magic in, like, baptism.
Yes.
That it's going to somehow wash him clean.
He sees through one but not the other.
Yeah.
Sort of.
So it's like forcing him to do that. Again, I said something about Clockwork Orange earlier, right? Like there's that whole idea of, can you really force someone to amend their ways? Like, you can force someone to be baptized. You can force someone to go to church. You can force them to do all kinds of things. But, like, ultimately, if the change doesn't happen within, then it's not going to matter. It's all surface.
And then you get to the debate of whether the baptism causes the change or that's within, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, to me, is that what he thought? Like, did he think that somehow or another by him experiencing baptism waters that he was?
And he said what he says too. He says, "Take the blood." Right. Again, there will be blood. Right. Like maybe the literal blood at the end wasn't what was the only thing being referred to. There's take the blood.
Did Bandy say that, or did
I feel
Eli?
like it was Bandy.
Okay.
It was one of them. But which that was something I noticed this time around. And also the blood, one review I read was talking about the blood ties throughout the movie, or the fabricated ones, specifically between Daniel and his brother, Daniel and his son, both of which aren't his real brother or son.
Yeah. Well, and it makes you think of what, like, whereas there is that cynicism that's so pervasive, Bandy was almost like, oh yeah, like if you do these things, then you will be, like, then you'll be a person that I feel good about selling my property to.
Yeah.
That's. But there again, like, how do you? It brings up the bigger question too of, like, how do you know real change? Like, how do you know if somebody's, like, pulling your leg or not?
And I think, again, this is almost I don't know if, well, I think this does have a pretty pessimistic outlook, saying that change doesn't really happen, Daniel doesn't change, and people don't change. And that's one way of looking at it.
Right.
I'd like to believe people do and can change.
Yeah.
But sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, forcing change though is not. It's not.
Doesn't ever work.
Yeah. And that's where I think, behavioral performative, like, change is not real change, unless it I mean, again, that whole surface versus what's lurking underneath, like it's where the oil is that where the change happens in some ways. Like that's the only way that it can happen. This movie, you've got countless people who they are on the outside and who they are on the inside are two totally different things.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, Plainview, Eli, and Henry. But even Plainview, he almost forces HW to do the same thing.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like, you're my son. He's not really his son. But
you're going to continue the business.
Right. Like, so it's also that picture of, like, you get too close to the corruption that you get sucked into it too, right? And so HW, through no fault of his own, other than just being, orphaned, he gets sucked into that whole mess. And in some ways, again, like the explosion, he loses his hearing. That was sort of the beginning of his transformation away from that world. Originally, it was his dad pushing him out, but then by the end, when he's sitting down, he says to his dad, like, I don't want any part of you, basically.
And also, he stays in the world of oil, interestingly enough. And like Daniel says, "You're not my family. You're a competitor." And he really fixates on the sign for drilling, pointing down. I think that's what really sets him off. He's like, "You're not continuing my family business." That's his final straw. You're not continuing my family business. You're making your own business. And if you're not with me, you're against me. You're my enemy, in the words of Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah. Well, and if I can't make you, then you're nothing.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like, how dare you think that you can somehow...
How can you be anything without me?
Success without me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
What do you think... How do you interpret the name of Eli's church, the Church of the Third Revelation?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I was like, I get so bent out of shape when people say Revelations in the Bible.
Yeah.
I'm like, there was only one.
There's just one. One revelation.
So I when I hear the third revelation, I'm like, well,
what was the second?
Yeah, not only what was the second, but like, are there multiple ones here? Like, what's going on? Yeah, I thought that was really weird.
You do have Daniel's rant at the end. I am the third revelation.
Okay.
I am God's chosen to blah blah blah. Blah.
Yeah.
Just the ramblings of a madman, but maybe he's not mad. Maybe he's the most sane person in the room.
Yeah, I don't know what the second revelation is, but I mean, it feels like that's a very man-made thing.
Yeah.
That like the third revelation. Because it's funny. You drive through any town and you find like First Baptist Church, Second Baptist, Third Presbyterian, Fourth Presbyterian. Yeah. So it would be interesting that the third wouldn't be on the church, but would be on the revelation. In some ways, he's again, we've made that comparison over and over between what Plainview is doing and what Eli is doing. He's almost claiming that he's got some direct revelation from God.
Yes.
And so I think that's, to him, what this third revelation is that he's been given a special revelation about God and what his mission is supposed to be, just like Daniel's been, given some special ability to be able to, make the pipeline, get the deal done, do all this other stuff, I drink your water. I drink it up.
Yeah. One review I saw about that, I don't know, one thing I saw about that scene as well, someone made a connection between the milkshake and what Daniel had said a little bit prior to that about Eli and Paul at their mother's teat. Sort of a connection between this natural sort of milk and this ultra processed, like almost corrupted, man-made sugary milk concoction that is a milkshake.
Well, and that's because didn't he offer when he saw those other oil guys in the restaurant? Didn't he offer to get a milkshake for HW?
He? Ah, maybe.
Which would make sense because it's almost like he's trying to get him to drink that same like tainted, milk instead of the pure milk.
Yeah, which I feel like you keep seeing HW have glasses of milk all throughout the movie. There's the one scene where he dumps a bunch of vodka or something, gin. Daniel does.
Well,
from his flask. He forces him to drink it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
And then he puts him to bed, doesn't he?
I think so.
I was like, it's like child abuse.
It's ridiculous.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, we've been at this for like an hour.
Oh, wow. I wasn't sure how long we had gone.
The first time I checked the clock, it was like 1:20. So I'm not sure, but I think I could keep talking about this movie for like days.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to talk. I do think this is probably a perfect movie. I don't think it's for everybody is the thing.
Yeah.
But the more I simmer with it, I've seen it like 2.5 times because I watched most of it with you.
Yeah.
And then I watched it from the beginning by myself.
Yep.
But every time I see it, I'm like, this is. I don't see a flaw with it. It's very slow. It's a slow burn.
It is a slow burn. I'll tell you, Paul Thomas Anderson, you and I have talked about it before. I don't remember if we talked about it in an episode or not, but there's an aftertaste to movies.
Yes,
I guess
100%.
And sometimes that aftertaste is bad, and sometimes that aftertaste is like better. So like a wine in some ways, where you're going like, get that.
Yeah.
And for me, Paul Thomas Anderson movies are better with the rewatch.
Yes.
For me. Like Magnolia has become that's in my top 5 movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I got it the first time.
Yeah.
But every time I watch that movie, I love it more. This is, I don't remember how many times I've seen There Will Be Blood, but the same thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
You and I talked about my experience with One Battle.
Yeah.
And I wasn't crazy about it the first time through. I just finished the second time through, and I was like, yeah, it could have been that I was just not in a good headspace or whatever. So I'm anxious to go back and watch. I did not. I've only seen The Phantom Thread once, and my response was very similar to, and Daniel Day-Lewis is in that.
Yeah,
too.
right.
My response was very similar. Like, it was very meh.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like, I probably need to rewatch that.
Yeah.
Only seen Inherent Vice once. Only seen The Master once, and so I'm kind of wanting to get and Licorice Pizza too.
Licorice Pizza. So that's Licorice Pizza is the one movie of his I've seen that I didn't love, and but I would be curious to check it out again.
Yeah, I Licorice Pizza to me is you may put it, and you could disagree with me on this because I know these are near and dear to your heart, but like
Dazed and Confused, American Graffiti.
American Graffiti.
Yeah.
I would almost say just like American Graffiti was to like the 60s or early 60s.
Early
right?
60s, yeah.
And American Graffiti was to like 70s.
Dazed and Confused was to 70s.
Dazed and Confused, right. That may be to like the 2000s, like Licorice Pizza.
Is that when Licorice Pizza took place?
It was either 2000s or 2010s. I feel like it could have been. It may have been
90s.
Earlier, 90s. So
yeah.
But I feel like when you can look at certain movies like that and say that's where they belong.
Yeah.
Like, and you can pull them back into their context, it gives them like so much more meaning.
Oh, for sure.
So And even though things like There Will Be Blood and One Battle After Another have this almost timeless message that you can pull it back into whichever context you're in, and it makes sense. But I think that was probably part of the reason why too. I there was so much stuff going on in the world when I watched One Battle the first time. Yeah. That I was like, this is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like almost to the point that you're going like, oh gosh. Sometimes you watch movies to escape reality.
Yeah. Like why don't I just turn on the news at this point?
Yeah. So it could have been that too. But anyway.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for
absolutely.
Thanks for humoring me and having a conversation.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
I think this is one of my favorite movies. I might say a lot of movies are one of my favorite movies, but I'm a big fan of There Will Be Blood. It's great to talk about it with you. I think I don't know if there's anyone else I'd rather talk about this movie with.
You. That's good. Yeah. At some point maybe we'll circle back and talk about Magnolia together.
I think that would be a good one,
especially with hopefully the relationship that you and I have is not like Tom Cruise and Jason Robards.
I think we're pretty safe on that.
Okay, good to know.
Okay.
All
right. Yeah. Thank you for listening and or watching.
If they want to reach you, what do they have to do?
Reach me?
Yeah.
Like contact?
Do they ever write you and say, I want to be on your podcast, Dylan?
I don't know. Sometimes I'll get a DM on Instagram. Okay. So yeah, follow the Instagram. Send a message if you want to be on the pod. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Hit the bell for notifications. Follow on Spotify. Follow on Apple Podcasts. I think that's all.
And next time you'll maybe be back to your school studio again. So.
I probably will. Yeah. Next one's episode 50 after this.
Wow.
So I feel like I need to do something.
Big event.
I know. I need to do something special.
Cool.
Maybe I'll finally talk about Pulp Fiction on Pulp Diction.
That would be good. Nice.
All right.